All right, that was the sound of the closing bell at the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. And that's a signal to the end of today's trading, actually. Well, hello and welcome there. This is Business Nigeria. I am Tolu Lokpe Ogunjobi. Top stories leading the world of business for today. Now, we'll be going back to the Nigerian Stock Exchange where we get live pictures, and Effiong Ekop, the business editor, will be there to give us insight into the trading activities and the fundamentals for the day's trading. But before then, let's look at some other stories now. Nigerian foreign reserves has increased by 1.3 billion US dollars since the beginning of this quarter. According to the Central Bank of Nigeria, the reserve now stands at 31.56 billion US dollars. This signified a steady improvement in the country's current account balance, despite a threat from rising shale oil production in the United States of America. Improved crude earnings have also been reflected in the amounts of funds disbursed by the federal account allocation. The National Bureau of Statistics says an estimated $4.6 billion in purchasing power parity, representing 39% of the combined federal and state education budget in 2016, is paid out as bribes to public officials in Nigeria annually. A report released by the Bureau in collaboration with the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime also shows that about 32% of Nigeria's adults who had contact with public officials between June 2015 and May 2016 paid out bribes. According to the report, the magnitude of public sector bribes in Nigeria becomes even more palpable when factoring in the frequency of payments. It added that the majority of those who paid bribes to public officials did so more than once over the course of the year. A worrisome trend indeed. Now, the federal government has commenced an independent audit of remittances of its funds into the Treasury single account, that's the TSA, by deposit money banks. The initiative, which began fully in September 2015, has been complied with by more than 900 agencies of government, with 20,000 bank accounts closed, while 5 trillion naira has been moved from banks to the CBN. There are discoveries that about 7 banks are yet to remit a total of $793 million government funds into the TSA. The Director of Funds Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, Mr. Alexandra Adeyemi, said the audit, which is being conducted by renowned accounting firms such as PricewaterhouseCoopers and Ernst & Young, is focused on how much of government's fund was in the banks before the presidential directive was given, how much was actually moved, and what was still being held by banks. Thank you for staying tuned. Now, let's jump back to the Nigerian Stock Exchange on the trading floor where business editor Effiong Ekop is standing by for updates. Thank you, Ekop. Yeah, finally trade is closed. Now, what can you tell us about today's trading, or tell us what you have for us?
Oh yes, the market has just ended, and for analysis of how trading actually, went throughout the day from 9:30 till 2:30, I have here two stockbrokers who traded on the floor. First is Paul Ozim. Paul Ozim is from Royal Guarantee Trust Limited. Paul, you're welcome.
Thank you.
And also have Jamil Mohammed from APT Securities. Jamil, welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Paul, let me begin with you. Tell me how you traded. How did you go?
Today, the trades in the market was centered on two stocks. Guarantee Trust Bank, which did about 40% on the market. We also did had a heavy trade in Dangote Cement. Dangote Cement did this trade worth about $1 billion today. Between both stocks, the markets did about 55% of the market. The other stocks shared about 45% of the outstanding trades in the market. Today, the market lost 0.9%, and it was basically attributable to the fall in the price of Dangote Cement from 225 naira to 216 naira at the close of markets. And Dangote Cement controls about 30% of the weights of the markets. So when there's any significant change in the price of Dangote Cement, it affects the index significantly. So, say for Dangote Cement, I think the market did well.
Okay, let me take it from Jamil. How did it happen that Guarantee Trust and Dangote now dominated trade, which before midday we were having, we saw the shares of Nestle and the shares of Honeywell. How did this happen to move up against that?
Actually, markets always trade intraday. It used to display some trend during the day. So intraday, if you look at it in the morning, you will see that some stock are stated the day. That is honey flour, Dangote flour. But towards the end of the day, because the volume of guarantee in the market and the volume it has traded, it has that is why the market behaves in that matter.
So what exactly is coming from Guarantee Trust Bank? What is that bank doing that is attracting investors?
I think foreign investors are now seeing that they have a renewed interest in that stock. And because of the fact that it has fundamental, after being a fundamental stock, you see stock as a very good structure in terms of corporate governance and corporate actions. So these are all those favorable and positive things that counts towards this stock. And that's why it's now the toast of foreign investors.
We have seen the stock of Guarantee, rising very rapidly, very high. Does that mean all the losses that it had incurred in the last 2 years, the stock has actually recovered? Would you say so?
Well, for me, I see Guarantee as one of those strong stocks you have in this market, that despite the economic downturns, the bank still kept on posting very solid fundamentals. If you look at the last results that just came out, the H1 2017, you could see that despite the turmoil, the economic turmoil, we're having negative economic growth. We have a lot of companies that are still struggling with the current macroeconomic environment. You're seeing Guarantee posting a significant rise in H1 profits from 2 naira 50 kobo to about 2 naira 90 kobo. That's almost like about 15% improvements. And now they brought a corporate action that's indicating a interim dividends of 30 kobo as against the historic 25 kobo which they give initially. So, and beyond this, when you look at the fundamental of the stock, Guarantee is a stock that using the dividend yield, you will say okay, it's still giving you about at least a yield above between 5 and 6%. Based on this current market price. So I don't think Guarantee is wrongly priced. I think the stock is still has some potential upsides. At the moment, the foreign investors tend to colonize that stock.
Okay, Jamil, the president returned at the weekend. Tell me, what influence has that had on the market? Has the market, reacted in any serious way?
No, not really. But what you need to look at is when the president was coming, the market have reacted to that information because of the kind of person Mr. President is. But his return has not really reflected in what is happening in the market, because the president factor has been factored into our price long ago. So what is happening now is expected that it's not going to react to that is return, because the confidence of foreign investor is already there, because the government has put in key policies in place that will attract foreign investors to our market, and it's already there. So the coming of the president does not have that effect on the market.
So okay, Paul, in a just a question,
the market is neutral. The market is looking at the current macroeconomic fundamentals. Okay. We are seeing rising reserve is sitting at $31 billion. They were saying stable foreign exchange. In fact, some people are speculating that it's possible that the naira will strengthen further. So for any foreign investor, you realize that naira assets are cheap. This is the time to buy naira assets. Stocks in Nigeria, like Nigeria Stock Exchange, are currently cheap, relatively when priced in terms of dollar terms. If you look at anybody who's coming now, vis-a-vis an investor that came in about 2 years ago, the person is having about between 70% and 80% gain, forex gain, by rushing into the market now. So I think beyond what we're seeing now, it goes beyond the president coming in. The economy already have a solid macroeconomic fundamentals to attract for investors.
Okay, Paul, thank you very much. Let's leave it there. Paul from Royal Securities Limited. Thank you. Jamil Mohammed from APT Security.
Thank you.
So Lou, I've been speaking with these two stockbrokers who have got to analyze the market close for us this Monday. Back to you in the studio.
Many thanks there, Effiong Ekop there, giving his talking to analysts and giving us views on the fundamentals affecting the Nigerian capital market at the moment. GTB and Dangote Cement, like they said, and also everybody agrees now that there's a little stability with regards to forex and also increasing reserves. We're going to take a break now, and we'll be back with more on the show. Don't go away. It's Business Nigeria. Thank you for staying tuned. Now, in other discussions now, the federal government has commenced an independent audit now of remittances of its funds into the Treasury single account by the deposit money banks. Well, I have with me via Skype. Joining me via Skype is the Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Muda Yusuf. Also joining us from Abuja studio is the Director General, Abuja Chamber of Commerce, Chijoke A.K. Chuku. It's a day for two DGs. Thank you very much, DGs, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Well, DG, let me start from Abuja. 7 banks had not remitted a total of 739 million naira dollars into government coffers. That's with regards to this TSA. Now, what do you make of this development? It's been a while we got this directive, and we still have this not adhering to directives by the government. It's not a step in the right direction. I want to know your view on this.
Yeah, when you give a policy or an instruction, it is also possible to do a check, to check to know whether people adhered to the instructions. When that instruction was given for all monies and all funds to be moved to CBN, there would have been need for the CBN and government to actually do a scorecard of who moved and what moved and why they didn't move. And so if that instruction was given and some people defaulted in taking that decision seriously, then it calls for some penalty and some caution. I'm sure that is actually what informed the appointment of the independent audit firms to be able to check if such amount was seen still in the coffers of some banks. Then it became necessary for the audit firm to check to know whether there are some still remaining somewhere in order for them to be sure that all the banks adhered to the instruction. Thank you.
Indeed. Now to Lagos now, to the DG of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Muda Yusuf. I want your views on this. Federal government has decided to now do an independent audit. looking at the TSA and what we've expected to achieve with this move, unifying accounts and moving ahead with an economy that is just getting out of recession, DG, do you see this as a step in the right direction? And how much was really moved? And why are these banks holding some of this cash back?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, I think we need to look at this matter from two angles. There is the issue of compliance with a presidential directive. There is the issue of the desirability of the TSA within the context of the liquidity situation in the economy. With respect to the directive, I think it's only proper that when a directive is given, irrespective of the merits or otherwise of the directive, as long as it is a legitimate directive, I think all the players have a responsibility to comply with that directive. If any institution has not complied, then such institution may be liable to some consequences for non-compliance. So there's no question about that. As to the desirability of the TSA, of course, it has its merits and it has its demerits. The merits is what we have said, unifying the accounts, reducing loopholes, reducing leakages, and so on. But it also has its downsides. One key downside is that it has a negative effect on the liquidity situation in the economy. Already, we have very tight monetary policy regime. We have the CRR at 22.5%. We have the MPR at 14%. We have liquidity ratio at 30%. So if on top of this, we are now having what looks like a mopping up of funds in the system, and don't forget, we also have the treasury bills at around 18%. So the multi-dimensional, taking away of liquidity from the system has a lot of adverse effects on the economy. Then I've also had complaints from some of the public sector agencies about the bureaucracy in the release of funds. It is very easy to pay funds or monies into the TSA account. But when it comes to the operations of the MDAs, releasing funds for the operations has become a nightmare for many institutions. So this is also having a very adverse effect on the operations of many of the MDAs. So there's a need to streamline the entire process to ensure that we reduce the collateral damage or collateral side effects that the TSA is having.
I go to Abuja now, where the DG of Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Now DG, Lagos, Muda Yusuf has made this position known, talking about the negative aspect, though he has its positives too, like he identified. I don't know if you also see these negatives, looking at the issue of liquidity and our monetary policy rate as it stands at this time. What do you make of the TSA policy? Do you think it needs to be streamlined?
When we got into recession, I told some Nigerians that one of the reasons why Nigeria got into recession was because of TSA. Now, what TSA did was just to abruptly cut off money supply from the system. What it did was to deny banks, commercial banks, investable funds that would have been given out in risk assets to many borrowers. What it did was to reduce liquidity in the system to the extent that people couldn't have access to funds. And so that was actually what TSA did. That is the negative side. But again, we know that at the time the government took over, it was necessary for them to have an amount of money that is available to government and that could be invested by government. You discover that some institutions, government institutions, were borrowing money when government actually had money. Government couldn't account for how much it had in its coffers. So that was the positive side of it, to be able to give government on-the-spot assessment of how much that is available for its use. But like I said, if we really want to get out of recession and allow banks have enough funds to be able to give out to fund capital projects and many other projects, TSA shouldn't be the way to go. It should not be the way to go. Many Nigerians will be surprised, but I can tell you that was, first of all, it was abrupt. For you to engage in such a decision, you need to give a long period of time for banks to be able to mop up their funds. And you see that immediately that decision was taken, many banks started having liquidity issues, and obviously CBN came in on them. So these are the negative sides of TSA. Otherwise, it has its own positive sides, and that is just why government went into it. Thank you.
Okay, now back to Lagos now. DG Lagos Chamber of Commerce. Now the president is back, and many say investors' confidence, which we seem to be getting lately, maybe there is an impact on the economy. I don't know if you have a word on that before we round up.
Well, first of all, let me congratulate Nigerians and congratulate the president on his return and on the improvement in his medical condition. I must say that the return of the president will help to stabilize the polity, because I know that his absence has been generating some tension and some disruptions here and there. So his return, I think, will help to stabilize the polity, and that will also help to it will impact positively on the confidence of investors. And you could also, at least from his speech, we realize that he's restating his commitment to ensuring the security of lives and property, the fight dealing with the issue of Boko Haram, dealing with the issue of some elements within the polity that are trying to create a division. So I think all these are welcome development, but I need to advise that it is necessary that we also follow the path of dialogue and engagement. Because I noticed the president was a bit firm, as usual, in his speech. But again, when we deal with these issues, we need to also tread carefully, so that we engage all the stakeholders, we engage those who are agitating for whatever reason they're agitating for, so that you can have a sustainable stability in the polity. So that is important. But on the whole, I think the impact has been very positive on the investment environment, the impact of his return.
Okay, then now the last for in Abuja now, back to the DG Chijioke Ikechukwu. Now, one word on the president's return. What are your expectations?
It is a welcome development. You know that before now, so many ministries and parastatals have been on standstill because many decisions would actually be taken by certain boards of these ministries and parastatals, and these boards have not been appointed. So you discover that, yes, we have a budget that earmarked certain amounts for capital projects. These capital projects cannot take place until a board sits that can approve certain levels of expenditure in these ministries and parastatals. Now that it's back, I know those problems are going to be solved so quickly. There are also many major sensitive decisions cannot be taken that couldn't have been taken if not for his presence. So the president coming back is a welcome development. I see that possible market avenues are going to start opening and opportunities are going to start opening. There will be investor confidence. Investors' confidence right now in the system. They now know we have a president that is sitting. Though he was still doing well with the acting president present, but the fact that he's back is a positive thing for all of us, meaning that most decisions that have been stalled before now will just be taken without delay.
All right.
That's the positive side of it.
All right, there, DG, Director General Chijioke Ikechukwu, Abuja Chamber of Commerce, and also DG Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Muda Yusuf. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us on Business Nigeria today.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Well, away from that, crude oil prices fell on Monday after rally encourages profit taking by dealers. At the London market, a barrel of the European Brent sells at $52 per barrel. For the OPEC basket, a barrel of the crude steadies at $48. Analysts say the global energy market is starting to rebalance, despite the pumping of shale oil from the United States. Well, that's our package for you today on Business Nigeria. Join us tomorrow for a fresh edition, a more insightful and detailed analysis. I am Tolu Lokpe Ogunjobi. On behalf of the entire production crew, I must thank you for watching. I leave you with the figures of the exchange rate as it stands today. Bye for now.